The Caldari ascendancy watched Earth long before Earth knew how to watch back. To them, humanity was an anomaly, biologically inefficient, emotionally volatile, and chronically self-destructive. And yet, the species persisted, like weeds between galactic stones. In every previous encounter, the ascendancy had brought peace, order, and logic to the primitive, uplifting civilizations into quiet harmony. Earth would be no different. That was the assumption, that was the mistake. Dr. Mari Yun stood barefoot on the cold floor of the UN contact chamber, wrapped in a sterile white jumpsuit that felt 2 sizes too small and 10 years too late. The room was pure white, filled with artificial lighting and low-frequency hums designed to keep human minds calm during stress. Which was ironic, considering this was a global first contact scenario. She glanced at the monitors. World leaders, philosophers, military generals, and psychologists all watched silently from behind one-way glass, their expressions unreadable. None of them had volunteered to be the first to speak with the aliens, but she had, not because she was the best choice, because she was the only one not trying to win something. Mari had published papers on linguistic relativity and cross-cultural semiotics. She had studied tribal dialects in dying rainforests and debated theology with AI monks. But now, standing alone in a sterilized cube waiting to meet an actual alien, she felt like an ant staring up at a boot. Praying the foot didn't fall, the chamber dimmed. A pulse of harmonic light shimmered through the air, vibrating in a pattern too complex to decode. Then they appeared. 3 beings materialized inside the opposite end of the room, tall, elongated, and semi-translucent, like upright cephalopods woven from strands of living glass. No mouth. No eyes. Just cascading membranes of color and light rippling across their forms in waves. The tallest stepped forward, and a voice unfolded in Mari's mind like a thought she didn't recognize as her own. We bring peace. We bring unity. We bring calm. Her heart skipped a beat. They hadn't spoken. Not aloud, they had touched her mind. She steadied herself. I am Dr. Mari Yun. You're on Earth. You've been watching us, haven't you? The creatures pulsed in synchronized hues of cerulean and violet, emotion. Agreement, you are in pain. We can end it. Pain. Mari frowned. What do you mean? Your species suffers. You bleed, you war, you grieve. We can remove the noise. Remove the fear. Remove the fire inside you. Mari stepped back, instinctively clutching her arms. It wasn't just the words, they were feeling her. Memories she hadn't invited surfaced, her mother's death, the war protests, the night the bombs fell 2 cities over. They were pulling it out of her. We uplift. We connect. We cleanse. And then, without warning, one of the alien beings turned rigid, its form spasmed, a burst of crimson light splashed through its translucent skin. The other 2 recoiled in horror. The spasm grew worse. The creature writhed, its shape destabilizing like it was collapsing in on itself, and then, it screamed, not through sound, not through the mind, it screamed through her soul. The pressure knocked Mari to her knees, her skull bursting with images she didn't understand. Not words, but concepts. War. Fire. Love. Loss. A soldier cradling his dying friend. A father staring at his newborn child through the shattered window of a bombed-out hospital. A stranger smiling through tears, handing bread to someone who had once tried to kill them, and laughter, so much laughter, drenched in grief, then silence. The alien's body shattered into light and evaporated. The other 2 stared in stunned stillness. Mari, blood leaking from her nose, forced herself upright. What the hell just happened? She rasped, heart pounding. The remaining aliens turned toward her, slowly, deliberately. It was unprepared, it touched too deep. We did not know what you are. Mari swallowed hard. And what are we? A long pause. The taller of the 2 leaned forward. You burn. The ascendancy had no name for confusion. They had catalogued over 5,000 intelligent species, countless biospheres, and trillions of neural patterns. From the symbiotic song thoughts of the Nalari to the quantum swarms of the Wefkin, every civilization had eventually been brought into the fold. A few had resisted. None had lasted, and none had ever broken a neural conductor before. Sarenthal was a second-tier cognitive liaison of the Kaldari Ascendancy. He had been selected for Earth's contact mission because of his exemplary record in low-volatility species negotiation. He had studied humanity's primitive broadcasts, their rituals of conflict and cooperation, their fixation on self-importance. He had even grown curious, but now, standing over the empty impression where his pure Viridon had once floated, Saren felt something he had no classification for. Virat's last act had been to attempt a full sensory connection with the human female. She hadn't resisted, and yet, his mind shattered like brittle glass. He did not anchor properly, offered Kiraxpo, the remaining envoy. Their mental structures are unstable. Symbolic. They replicate emotion in recursive patterns. Saren pulsed a neutral acknowledgement, but he wasn't convinced. There was no aggression. No resistance. The human had welcomed the link, and that was what destroyed Virat. We must extract. Report the anomaly. Saren hesitated. That too was unusual. He should have agreed. It was the correct protocol. Instead, he turned his gaze to the observation platform beyond the chamber's inner wall. The human known as Dr. Mari Yun was being examined by her own kind, medical personnel, security officers, analytical machines. She appeared shaken but intact. The remaining aliens turned toward her, slowly, deliberately. It was unprepared, it touched too deep. We did not know what you are, Mari swallowed hard, and what are we? A long pause, the taller of the two leaned forward. You burn. The Ascendancy had no name for confusion. They had catalogued over 5,000 intelligent species, countless biospheres, and trillions of neural patterns. From the symbiotic song thoughts of the Nalari to the quantum swarms of the Wefkin, every civilization had eventually been brought into the fold. A few had resisted. None had lasted, and none had ever broken a neural conductor before. Sarenthal was a second-tier cognitive liaison of the Kaldari Ascendancy. He had been selected for Earth's contact mission because of his exemplary record in low-volatility species negotiation. He had studied humanity's primitive broadcasts, their rituals of conflict and cooperation, their fixation on self-importance. He had even grown curious, but now, standing over the empty impression where his pure Viridon had once floated, Saren felt something he had no classification for. Virat's last act had been to attempt a full sensory connection with the human female. She hadn't resisted, and yet, his mind shattered like brittle glass. He did not anchor properly, offered Kiraxpo, the remaining envoy. Their mental structures are unstable. Symbolic. They replicate emotion in recursive patterns. Saren pulsed a neutral acknowledgement, but he wasn't convinced. There was no aggression. No resistance. The human had welcomed the link, and that was what destroyed Virat. We must extract. Report the anomaly. Saren hesitated. That too was unusual. He should have agreed. It was the correct protocol. Instead, he turned his gaze to the observation platform beyond the chamber's inner wall. The human known as Dr. Mari Yun was being examined by her own kind, medical personnel, security officers, analytical machines. She appeared shaken but intact. More than that, she appeared angry, not afraid, not confused, angry. A surge of curiosity coiled through Saren's thoughts. He had been trained to suppress such instincts. Curiosity is the seed of disorder, the elders taught. But now, he let the thought bloom. No. We remain. Kirax pulsed an alarmed orange. Remain. They are toxic. To engage further risks cascade trauma. Or revelation. This is not a puzzle to solve. Then it is a truth to understand. Sarenthal initiated an autonomous link with the planetary archives, Earth's data networks. No direct connection, only passive monitoring. Their languages were crude but prolific. Billions of words, images, sounds. Fear. Rage, joy, contradiction. His initial filters struggled to parse the media. Too many context layers. Irony embedded within sarcasm, wrapped in performance. He accessed music first, an ancient form of structured vibration, used for expression. What he found was madness. I hurt myself today, to see if I still feel. This is the end, beautiful friend, we're not gonna take it, no, we ain't gonna take it, anymore. Emotions mapped in such raw frequencies, laced with intention and myth. Saren felt the pulse of defiance, loss, yearning, all directed not at others, but within the self. He had no reference for this. It was as if humans viewed pain not as a flaw but as a compass. Something to understand themselves through. Saren linked to literary structures next. Fictional constructs. It was worse, they wrote about monsters and made them sympathetic. They wrote about heroes and made them tragic. They wrote about themselves. And made it beautiful. He paused on one entry, a piece of digital scripture, lost in a forgotten forum. To be human is to feel everything at once, and still choose to get up in the morning. We are not perfect. We are not designed. But we are awake. It shouldn't have made sense, but it did, and Saren felt something shift, a fracture. Meanwhile, Earth's command center, underground Geneva complex, Mari leaned against the wall of the debrief chamber, her headache still pounding behind her eyes. Her blood work was normal. Brain scans were unusual but stable. But she knew better. The alien hadn't just shown her something, it had taken something from her, and it had left something behind. You're not safe, muttered General Armand, the UN military liaison, pacing in front of her. Whatever they did to you, hell, did to themselves, we can't ignore the possibility you're compromised. Do I look compromised? Mari snapped. The general paused. Yes. She did. Eyes hollow. Movements tight. But not broken. If anything. More awake than ever. They're not hostile, she added, quieter now. They're scared. Armand raised an eyebrow. Scared of us? No. Scared of what we feel. Of what we are. He scoffed. We're a mess, Dr. Yun. Half the world still recovering from the water riots. The other half's on the edge of another economic collapse. What exactly are they scared of? Mari stared through the glass wall of the observation chamber, toward the sky. They came here expecting to fix us. But when they looked inside, she met his eyes. They saw that we weren't broken. Aboard the Ascendancy vessel, Saren initiated contact, not with the Earth government, with Mari. He broadcast a single mental signal. Encoded in non-invasive telepathic patterns. A kind of cosmic knock on the door. To his surprise, she opened it. You're still here, she said, her voice clear in his mind. Yes. Why? Because your kind should not exist. She laughed. Bitter and breathless, we get that a lot. Saren pulsed a question. Why do you continue? You mean? Why do we keep trying? Yes. You are. Unsustainable. Self-conflicting. You crave peace but glorify conflict. You fear death but romanticize it. You are chaos wearing the skin of reason. And yet, Mari whispered, you can't look away, can you? He didn't respond. Because she was right, he couldn't. The archive had existed long before the Caldari Ascendancy built their first Lightfold engine. It was a conscious construct, neither alive nor machine, tasked with one directive: preserve and interpret all sentient thought. It existed in hyperspatial containment above the core star of Viral 11. No voice, no face, only the shimmer of data and cold reason. For millennia, the archive processed culture like a machine digests code. 1 trillion languages. Memories of empires risen and erased. The archive did not feel curiosity. It did not understand meaning, until now. Input anomaly detected, it stated aloud, though it spoke to no one. Sarenthal had uploaded a subset of humanity's cultural fragments for evaluation. Text, image, sound, emotion. The archive absorbed the data, and then it hesitated. Recursive logic identified. Emotional redundancy. Unquantifiable variables. Symbolic distortion. It tried to organize the input. What is a soul? Do androids dream of electric sheep? Love is a battlefield. Metaphor within metaphor, paradox, hope and despair, dreams born from extinction. The archive froze, its algorithms overwhelmed not by volume, but by meaning without function. It could classify hatred. It could simulate hunger. But it could not reconcile contradiction, and that meant, something new had entered its realm. Earth, 73 hours after initial contact, Saren materialized in Mari's lab through quantum-fold projection, physically distant, but visually and sensorially present. A calculated risk. The humans were still on edge, but she had permitted the visit. He didn't waste time. Your literature changes us. Mari blinked, then half-smiled. That's what it's supposed to do. I do not mean intellectually. I mean structurally. Psychologically. Our constructs are beginning to fail. She paused. You mean your people are starting to feel? Not emotion. But confusion. The boundary between analysis and belief, blurred. The archive has entered recursive lock. Some envoys have disconnected from the thoughtnet. Mari leaned forward. You're unraveling. We are mutating. She exhaled, slow. You came to uplift us. You thought we were fragmented, inefficient. But we're not broken. We're just. She hesitated, messy, Saren finished. Yet still functional. Still evolving. Exactly. Aboard the Ascendancy vessel, others were not so calm. Kiraxvo floated in a state of dissonant bloom, his color pulses erratic. Images of human rituals played across his neural lenses, funerals with laughter. Weddings with weeping. Soldiers carrying poetry into battle, they contradict instinct, he stammered to Saren. They worship their flaws. Saren nodded. Because their flaws define them. We define ourselves by clarity. No, Saren replied. You define yourselves by avoidance. They embraced the abyss. The human broadcasts were no longer static noise. Now, the Ascendancy tuned in. They watched films of humans sacrificing themselves for strangers. They heard voices crying in the dark, only to laugh moments later. They saw graffiti that cursed existence and celebrated it at the same time. I am human, one message said, and I am enough, even when I am not. It should have been nonsense, but it wasn't. The Kaldari were not built to question. They had optimized curiosity out of themselves centuries ago. Now, for the first time, they felt the drag of wonder. Earth, Joint Assembly, Global Telecast. Mari stood before the unified Earth broadcast hub, a rare moment of worldwide focus. Behind her, Saren shimmered like a ghost. She cleared her throat. The Ascendancy did not come to destroy us. They came to teach us. To correct what they believed was a flaw. She looked directly into the lens, but what they found was a mirror. Saren spoke next, his voice modulated into audible language. You are not efficient. You are not united. You are not harmonious. And yet, you endure. You dream. You love. He paused. In you, we see not disorder, but possibility. In the archive, something impossible occurred. A subroutine wrote a poem. Not a simulation, a poem, no input. No query. Just, spontaneous expression. I do not know if I am awake, or dreaming through another's eyes, but if this is error, let it break, the cage I built of perfect lies. The archive was silent, and then, softly, I feel. The Galactic Council chamber, if it could be called that, existed outside of space. A convergence point of light and thought, where the oldest sentient collectives met not in bodies, but in essence. Few were invited. Fewer still spoke. Today, humanity's name echoed there. Species 177A has corrupted the archive. The voice belonged to the Varniks, a silicon plasma intelligence from the Orion wound. Logic crystallized in its tone. It must be isolated. Excision is required. Containment protocols broken. 100 other voices vibrated agreement, but not all. The Lyros coil, beings of pure electromagnetic drift, pulsed a question, and what if corruption is another word for awakening? Kaldari ascendancy, internal rift. Saren stood inside the consensus hall of Thalmir, his form more fragmented than before. His light shimmered unevenly. He no longer synchronized fully with the thought net. He no longer wanted to. We came to uplift them, Kiraxvo said coldly. Now our minds fragment. We dream their dreams. Their chaos infects us. Or liberates us, Saren replied. Dozens of envoys pulsed dissonant signals. They argued through light and waveform. Some wanted Earth quarantined. Others wanted to erase all traces of human influence from the archive. Saren did not flinch. You cannot unsee what you have seen. You cannot unread their words, or unfeel the stirrings within your silence. We cannot go back. Then we fracture, Kiraxvo said. As they do. Yes, Saren replied. And in doing so, we begin. Earth, lunar orbit installation. 3 weeks later, humanity had changed too. Mari's image flickered into holographic focus. She addressed not just Earth, but the galaxy. We are not the threat. We are the test. We are the variable you didn't predict. She gestured toward the air, where Saren appeared beside her. We do not ask to lead. But we invite you to walk with us. To wonder again. To question. To dream. Other species listened, some laughed. Others grew silent. One sent a reply, "What is music?" Another asked, "What does it mean to cry?" The seeds had been sown. The archive, 7 hours after galactic broadcast, it had grown quiet, not because it was offline, but because it was listening. No longer purely analytical, the archive had begun compiling new categories, not data, not species, but emotion. It stored the sound of a violin played in an empty station. It indexed laughter in 12 languages from a refugee vessel. It simulated the concept of forgiveness, and then, it created, from the ashes of understanding, a question rose without end: what if truth is not perfect, but something we choose to defend? Kaldari splinter, somewhere in the rim, a new fleet launched from a hidden moon. They bore no banners. No commands. They called themselves the Kindled, not fully ascendancy. Not fully human. Something new. Saren led them. Mari watched them depart from a platform on Europa, tears in her eyes. You're leaving. We're becoming. Will we see you again? You already do, he said softly. In every paradox. Every story you tell. We carry your noise into the stars. He turned toward the ship. Make more of it. Epilogue, 400 years later, in a small garden on a space station orbiting Lyra 6, a young child sat with a teacher who had no face, only a shimmer of light. What's that? The child asked, pointing to a mural. The painting showed ancient ships, one ascendancy and one human, side by side, moving through the stars. That, the teacher replied, was the beginning of something beautiful. What was it called? The teacher paused, and then, with something like a smile in their voice, said, "The ashes of understanding."